let me on but 10 minutes early. So,
Really?
Hey, anybody home? Is anybody out there? Hello-y. I got ducks, geese wandering behind me. Geese, and there was a duck. I don't know where the duck went. Hello. Nobody's there yet. La-di-da. I am a couple minutes early.
I could sit here for the whole thing.
Yeah, I know. This is nice just to sit and to look. This is a really nice,
yeah.
If you want to do that. I mean, I don't care because I'll be like, yep.
I know.
So, I mean,
that's why I wouldn't feel bad.
Right. Yeah, no, that's fine because
It's wonderful right here.
Should get something to drink, sit back here and chill. There's a bench over there too, but it looks like it's in the sun a little bit. Come on, guys. Is anybody out there? Knock, knock. Anybody, huh?
Well, it's going back down.
The thing with this and this platform that I'm using, I get to keep my videos.
Oh, cool.
You know, which I never did before.
Right.
And they replay. Like it's live right now, but it'll be on there. So people
not like Lehego.
Right, exactly. So people will watch them because I get comments and stuff all the time.
Wow.
You know, and see, I have a there are people that that know me that go on the various tours. Yeah. It's kind of fun. Oh, I see one person up, and it is 1:59. Somebody's there. Who's there? Who is it? Sometimes people will do the chat and sometimes not. It's like you never tell. Hago gave a lot more information on the screen.
Oh.
You know, like I knew my signal strength, I knew my volume, I knew how many people were out there. Well, it's all. Well, this one isn't the one I'm working with. I don't know what that one's going to show. I haven't gotten a live tour yet. I'm working on it, but I haven't gotten it. So, okay, folks, it's 2:00. Woohoo! Welcome. This is Sharon Schultz, also known as the Bay Lady. And today I am in old Ellicott City, Maryland. Did you know that Ellicott City is the most haunted city in Maryland? I would say it's probably one of the most haunted in the whole country. And there's really actual reasons for that, why it would be so haunted here as opposed to other places. And we'll get into that shortly. So a couple things. I'm going to be telling you stories and showing you Ellicott City. If you have any questions, you can type them into the chat. Hopefully I can see it. Can't always if the sun's real glary, but I don't think that's going to be an issue today. I don't see it being real glary yet. And let's see what else. Oh yes, and if you like these tours and you want to see more of them, please support my tours by making a donation at Buy Me a Coffee. At Buy Me a Coffee. You'll find the link to it with this tour and also on my Facebook page. So this tour, I believe. Oh, hey, Judy, how are you? I see you. This tour is going out over to Facebook and YouTube like normal, but I've also added Twitter, but I can't tell if that's working yet. It doesn't seem to be as compatible with this as the other two, but we shall see. So I'm going to turn this around now and show you what I'm seeing. Well, actually, you kind of saw it behind me, but just bear with me though, because to switch this around, I have to go out into my settings and come back in again, and I'll have to do the same thing at the end too, so I can say goodbye properly. Okay, and there it is. All right. We are on the Baltimore County side of Ellicott City. Ellicott City is located in Howard County. Ellicott City was established in 1771 by three brothers who came from Bucks County, Pennsylvania. They came here. Say hi. That's Adele. Hi, Adele. They came here to build a mill, and they did. There it be, a big old monstrosity, flour mill. They did wheat and things of that nature, and the town prospered. Oh my goodness, it prospered. It grew and grew. By the 1800s, here you're looking at what the remnants of a trolley bridge in the 1800s, early 1800s, 1830s. There was a trolley that ran from Baltimore to Catonsville to Ellicott City. Where you see the deck and the stairs, that used to be where the train would stop, or the trolley rather. The trolley stop was built about that time, and it was a store, general store downstairs, and it was apartments upstairs. Sometimes it was a hotel. It just depended on the ownership. When it was, rooms for let, people could easily hop the train from here and go to Catonsville or Baltimore, and the train continued, okay, over the bridge and went into downtown Ellicott City, which is what we are about to do now. This is called Frederick Road. It's the main thoroughfare through this town. Ellicott City, its geographical location along the mighty Patapsco River, is why the Ellicott brothers chose this for their site. What you're looking at is the mighty Patapsco River. This river goes through a lot of Maryland, and it ends up emptying into the Chesapeake Bay. The river doesn't look like a lot now. It looks pretty peaceful, but unfortunately, it can get really fast moving in storms and situations like that. The railroad tracks is also a significant part of Ellicott City's history, which we'll get to it in a moment. I want to show you this view. The first building, the stone building on ground level, belonged to one of the Ellicott brothers. It's actually been moved from its original site because all those homes were washed away in one of the great floods. So it was moved here, and it's the only one of the Ellicott brothers' homes that is still standing here. Above that is Angela's Castle, and that is for another time. Angela's Castle is on my tour of the hill. There's so much to see and do here in Ellicott City. I've got 3 ghost tours going on. So anyway, here's another view of the river. You can imagine how fierce it can be in a storm. Ellicott City is one of the nicest cities you'd ever want to come see or visit. Here you're looking at the railroad bridge. The railroad was constructed around in the 1830s, and this was the very, very, very first railroad station in America, right? Ellicott City, the very first. Let me show you a nicer view of this old house here. The old Ellicott house, one of the Ellicott brothers. You can take screenshots, by the way. I'll try to set them up for you. Stop at appropriate moments if you want to take screenshots. I know Hago used to let you do that. And I wonder, I think it was just a controlled screenshot, to be honest. One with the button instead of the other hoops you have to jump through, right? So, Ellicott Mills was chartered in 1772, and it celebrated its 250th anniversary last year. You see the concrete steps. Ellicott City is in the valley, surrounded by 7 hills. 7 hills. 7 hills that are made of granite. And it's a type of granite that is only found here. And that ties into our story. So keep in mind, we've talked about the mighty Patapsco River, and now we've talked about the granite. We'll come over here to the train station for a second. It's hot here today. Okay. I have to let the traffic go by, I suppose. You're looking up Main Street. These buildings, many are original buildings. They're old. They've withstood time, which is a miracle in its own, which you'll hear more about. A lot of traffic today. I'm just waiting to cross. Eventually, that light's going to turn in my favor. But meanwhile, look at the stone buildings. Everything here is made of rock. Most all of the old buildings, because the granite was mined here. Okay, they had mills that took care of all of that. Oh, thank you. Look at that, and let me cross. Ooh, how nice. Okay. Oh, look, they have that part open. Get a sneak peek inside the museum. Woohoo. Okay. So here you have it. This is the first railroad station built in the U.S., okay? It is the Baltimore, Ohio Railroad Station. And you can see, here's the train tracks. I'll get back to the museum in a second. Unfortunately, this area has seen more than its fair share of drama, of death. Okay, used to be there was a sign on that bridge that we're looking at that had the watermarks from all the floods where the downtown area was flooded. I took it down some years ago. I don't know why. I thought it was fairly nice, whatever. Okay. In 2000, in the mid 2000s, 2006 or 7, perhaps. This is modern times, 2006 or 7. And this was probably the most recent tragedy here in Ellicott City when 2 19-year-old women sat up on that bridge that you're looking at, sat on the edge of the railroad bridge. It was after midnight. It was a warm, nice summer night. They were taking selfies and posting them on social media. Well, a train came through. There's still commercial trains running through here every now and then. And on this particular evening, a coal train was passing through. And right at that point where these 2 young girls were, the coal train derailed, overturned, and buried the girls alive in coal, crushed them. They died, gone, just like that. And what a freak thing. But that is so typical of Ellicott City. The experts, the people who research the paranormal, will tell you that Ellicott City is just prime area for this type of situation to happen. Um, the granite, according to experts, and you can see that all these buildings, they're all granite. The granite can hold energy. Okay, the granite absorbs energy of the area around it. Okay, now you have the river, and this is just one of the tributaries that run into it. This is the Tiber River right here running into the Patapsco. Um, this the water creates power. Okay, the water creates the energy, and the granite harnesses it. Okay, think about that for a second. The water creates the mist, creates the energy, and the granite harnesses the energy. Ellicott City has been overrun by paranormal experts. Everybody has been here to determine, to investigate, whichever. I want to tell you the story, which is a good illustration of the granite effect, is what I call it. However, when um, during the Civil War, Ellicott City was under Union control. Okay, there were Union soldiers stationed here. In fact, Ellicott City had its own local guard. The Patapsco Guard was very active here. Okay, so during that time, during the Civil War, this was a Union area, and the there were soldiers stationed a little bit up the road towards Baltimore to guard one of the bridges, the railroad bridges, called the Thomas Viaduct. Well, they had some Confederate prisoners they were holding, and one such prisoner escaped and started heading along the railroad tracks, hoping to find his way south to home. Okay. Well, he went in the wrong direction because he ended up finding his way to the end of the line here in Ellicott City. Well, the Union patrol that had missed this POW had sent word ahead to the Patapsco Guard to be a lookout for this fugitive. So when the young man found himself here, trapped, not going south, he decided he would hide out in one of the hotels. Okay. Well, he did. He made it up top there to the third floor, and then two Union soldiers saw him. And so the young Confederate soldier turned heel and charged down these stairs, but not before one of those two Union soldiers shot him in the back. The impact knocked him clear down to the bottom of the stairs, where he laid, eyes open, deader than whatever. There was talk that, maybe the Union soldiers should have faced murder charges, perhaps. I don't know, because the boy was shot in the back. But you can see the granite, and it is said, the story I just told you, if you're standing here on a moonless night, you will see that sailor come charging down the steps. After you hear footfalls running, you'll see the image of this ghostly soldier come flying down the steps, fall, and land at the bottom. just like so. So there's one story about the granite. Now, these buildings are built into the granite majorly. As a matter of fact, this building right here, you can see the granite on the back wall. Let me just go in here a little bit. Let's just peek in. See the back wall? It's all the rock. This is one of the older buildings. It's been here since the late 1700s, early 1800s. This was, once upon a time, called the Railroad Hotel. There's a stone fireplace. This was called the Railroad Hotel. It was built by Ellicott City to house the railroad workers that were constructing the rails and the station. So this was a hotel and all the way up. Next to it was the town hall. Now the town hall, the town hall was one of the tallest buildings. This building has had so many uses, but it at 5 stories, it is the tallest in downtown Ellicott City. It had 18 individual rooms with fireplaces. During the Civil War, the guard held Confederate prisoners and Union deserters up on that top floor. It was like an open conference room, or I know they didn't call it conference room then, but it was some type of open meeting hall, basically. Okay. This was built, let's see, this was a tavern first, like in 1807. But then again, during the Civil War, the Patapsco Guard had their headquarters on the top 2 floors and used that 5th floor meeting room to hold prisoners. Now, the prisoners were all stuck together, all jammed up together. A lot of them died from disease and typhoid and just all types of things. So it's said people that have lived here, you know, they hear the things go bump in the night and furniture moving with nobody about, and just kind of crazy little things like that, as you would probably expect, really. The Railroad Museum, let me go ahead and cross while I can here. The Railroad Museum is just that right now, a museum. It saw the last passenger trains in the 1950s and stopped any regular commercial lines in the 1970s. The building is used for Civil War reenactments. As I said, Ellicott City was really prominent during the Civil War. So they have reenactors and they celebrate on the holidays and such by, you know, bringing history to life for anyone that, you know, wants to witness it. So there's a story. One night there was an occasion here in town where they were doing Civil War reenactments, and so the reenactors, dressed in Civil War uniform and such, were able to camp out here to spend the night here in the museum, you know, as opposed to having to go out to hotels and such. And that way they would, you know, conveniently be here to wrap up the event the next day. So this one gentleman came outside. He really couldn't sleep. And so he was out here smoking a cigarette. It was late, nobody around. And he looks and he sees a man coming out of the fog. Of course, there's fog, right? He sees a man walking his dog, and they kind of come out of the fog. The night didn't have a moon. Seems to be a pattern here on moonless nights. It didn't have a moon, and so it was very dark. And the men spoke, and the guy with the dog was telling the story about a soldier who was shot while he was walking the picket lines with his dog. Um, and then he said that the old man died of his wounds and that the dog stopped eating and died of grief. Well, conversation ended and the men parted ways. And the reenactor watched the old man walk away. He saw his clothing change to that of a Civil War soldier that gained a pep in his step. And the dog, well, he became frisky as a pup as the pair walked off into the fog. Next morning, the reenactor started asking the men around. He was looking for the guy. He assumed that he was staying here and was just walking his dog. But nobody that looked like him, nobody with a dog, no dog had been here. And so the reenactor just, shook his head. No one was missing. Now, the trains here are said to have claimed hundreds of lives since the first track was laid in the 1830s, not to mention acts of God like fire and floods. Perhaps some of those buildings still linger. One employee nearby reported seeing a young boy standing all alone in the morning fog here at the railroad station crying. The boy begged the worker to help him find his mother. He agreed, and as he gently took the child by the hand and began to walk, puff, the child disappeared, just like that. Let's see. So we talked about the tallest building there. We've got a few more buildings to visit. And we'll just walk up Main Street here and check them out. It's a nice day today. Definitely a nice day to see the sights. Okay. To see the hills. There's hills everywhere, 7 of them to be exact. Okay, let's see. I've got a red light, so I guess I'll wait, right? Okay. Oh, light change. Good. Good for me. All right. Now, the next building that we're going to was at one time a toy store. That's just a couple of streets up here, a couple of houses up, actually. Almost there. It's a pretty little courtyard here. We'll see a bit more of this later. But again, look at the buildings way up above, right? They're all on that back hill. Okay. Still walking. Still walking. Oh, there's so many cute shops here too. Here's another way that goes back. Oh, let me show you this real quick. The Tiber River. This is called Tiber Valley. That river that I showed you down by the train station. This is towards the top of it. The river runs under these homes, under, like that. You can see it. Now imagine a rainstorm and imagine this to be a roaring river, a strong current, all of that. These buildings are empty. Well, the ground floors looks like the apartments, which is looking across the street here. It looks like the apartments are occupied. Da-da-da. Okay. Okay, so this pretty little multicolored building there with the dresses hanging out, once upon a time was a toy store. Well, it was other things before that, actually. At one time, during the Civil War, this building was a grocery store. No, there were people living in it at this during the Civil War. Um, it's a double house. Um, it's been a grocery store, Chinese laundry, jewelry store. Okay. During the Civil War, however, there was a family living here. It was the winter of 1864, and Ellicott City was being overrun by typhoid fever. It was running rampant through the community. It was taking people out, one by one, showing no mercy. It ended up here in Ellicott City. It had a 60% fatality rate that year, 1864. So as the story unfolds, there was a family living in this building, Joseph and Elizabeth Merkel, and their three children, Sean, Lissa, and Colin, 4 years old. The children, all three siblings, caught the fever, and in their upstairs bedroom, their mother diligently nursed them, but to no avail. She watched helplessly as her children passed one after another, together almost. The grieving parents were so heartbroken that eventually they moved away. Meanwhile, time went on and the building was bought and it was made a toy store by the name of Mumbles and Squeaks. Mumbles and Squeaks Toy Store. And people walking outside at night, seeing lights in the windows, people have described it as the children coming to life at night, coming downstairs, the three siblings still in their upstairs bedroom, coming down the steps and playing with the toys, warming themselves by a phantom fireplace. And then once they were noticed as people looked in the window, it said that the essence of the children would turn into little blue spheres of light and travel up the stairs and disappear into the ceiling, into the room that was their bedroom. Former people, shop owners and all, have heard little voices and little things, little mumbles and footfalls and squeaks, and perhaps that's the reason for the name of the toy shop, Mumbles and Squeaks. So sad story, but true of so many places here in Ellicott City. Another building, I should show you this one. Let's see. Okay, this building is the lodge, the center lodge. It's always been the lodge. It's been the lodge forever. It's old. It's granite. It has a very cool stone staircase that goes up behind the building to the street up above. The streets are connected by little alleyways like that. It's kind of interesting, the architecture. Anyway, this building was built in 1848, And it's one of the few completely detached buildings. You can see it's got sides on each. The story here, this was home to the Independent Order of the Odd Fellows, and it's one of the town's oldest charities. It's still in existence. During the 1970s, the son of one of the lodge's members was inducted into the lodge because he became of age, and he was just so thrilled to do that. And prior to that, he'd always come to the lodge and he would set up the meeting room with the chairs and everything needed before each and every meeting before the members would arrive. And then after the meeting, when they all went home, he would stay and put everything back to where it belonged. So on one particular evening, there was a meeting, and the guy's name was Tom, and Tom was en route back to Ellicott City to set up for the meeting. Unfortunately, on the way here, a vehicle crossed the center line and hit Tom head on, killing him instantly. So, out of respect, the members of the lodge canceled that next meeting, out of respect for Tom. But, however, when several then as they were thinking, some of the men and Tom's father thought, well, you know what? Maybe he wouldn't want that not to have the meeting. He would probably want us to go on with the meeting. And so the men came to begin to set up. And when they walked in there, they were stunned. It was done. It was set up, all of it. Everything was ready. Okay. They still have meetings up there on that top floor, and strange things still occur up on that top floor. Um, yeah. Oops. Yeah, the tenants in the lower apartments claim that at least 30 minutes prior to one of the meetings of the Odd Fellows, they hear noises coming from that floor, furniture scraping and things of that nature, footfalls on the old wooden floors, da 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 da. And when they went upstairs to check, not a living soul about. Maybe it was Tom. Thanks. Thanks a lot. Okay. The Stonehouse Collective. These shops are awesome. Oh, look at this. Guitars. This is called the Stonehouse Collective. Looks like it's got all kinds of cool things, right? Okay. Our next stop coming up here, down here. Let's see. Some of these buildings remain closed. The last flood they had here in 2018 really took a lot out of the people of Ellicott City. They had just had a serious flood 2 years before in 2016, and I believe a young woman drowned, and so did a young man that tried to save her in that flood. And then 2 years later, it happened again. These floods did not start with the Patapsco River overflowing. These floods started from the Tiber River running under the buildings from one of the hills on top of Ellicott City. And yeah, so the buildings can't all withstand. Like these stone buildings here, the stone ones are the oldest in town. It looks like most of those are not even open. The windows are empty. Very empty. Okay, our next stop is right here, coming up. And again, these old buildings, stone, some of them built right into the rock, just right into that rock wall. Okay, so this building is unoccupied. Storm damage has been repaired. It says Easton Sons. Easton Sons, okay? Easton Sons Funeral Home and Livery Stable. Okay. And here it is over the Tiber River. This is Tiber Park, the smallest park in Maryland. Okay, so here's Easton and Sons. Now, their story, it's one of the oldest, it's one of four funeral homes that occupied Ellicott City at one time together. Now, you would think with all the deaths they have, I don't know that four funeral homes would have been enough, but this was one of them. Okay. Let's see. It was home to a cabinet and coffin maker shop at first. And back in the 1800s, Civil War time, that's what it still was. So that was the first thing. And then later it became a grocery store. Then Clinton Easton took possession and ran a successful undertaking business into the 1850s. Then, as time went on, fast forward to modern times, it was a coffee shop and the funeral home long forgotten until a woman enters the coffee shop, and she stops dead in her tracks. Okay, pun intended. What is that smell? She wanted to know. It was formaldehyde. This woman was said she had no idea, never been in this building before. She ran out and never returned. Formaldehyde, right? Isn't that what they used to embalm people with? Correct? The woman, or for years, the employees and customers here have complained about just weird things happening, like somebody mopping the floor when no one was about, missing menus that turn up later, and such and such. So one of the coffee shop owner here called in a spiritualist, right, to do a ritual cleansing of the building. Okay. So while doing so, the psychic encountered the apparition of a servant in a floral print dress standing outside the shop and waving to passers-by to come in. The cleanser told the helpful spirit to stop inviting folks in and that she was free to leave now. And apparently she did. Nothing else was ever heard. But if you do find yourself near the livery stables, in the courtyard, behind Easton's, livery stable, now antique shop, be sure to stay clear of the phantom horse-drawn hearse as it drives en route to the cemetery. And here's the old livery stable. And here again is a look at Tiber Alley. And next, coming up, we're coming out right across from the railroad station where we began. This is called Maryland Avenue. Main Street was the street that we were just on, also known as Frederick Road. Okay, so here we are at this antiques depot. Okay, The Antique Depot, it's one of the town's oldest continuously running businesses. It's been used as a coal yard, a feed store, farming supplies, blacksmith, hardware, and livery stable, now Antique Depot. Um, it's adjacent to the property, the Emporium, which is right there, right next door, adjacent to the Emporium, and it was also at the time tasked with making coffins. Um, it's probable that the bodies of flood victims recovered from the Patapsco River were brought here and laid out for identification as well as next door. Um, it's visitors and people here to this antique store have experienced seeing apparitions, ghostly apparitions, and such. In particular, two little girls dressed in their night clothes, giggling, laughing, running around. They make their presence known with soft childlike giggles and laughter. And occasionally they've been known to materialize on the first floor. Also, there's another story, an employee who saw a former shopkeeper. His name was Bart, dressed in Quaker style. When you do see Bart, don't look in his eyes. Those who have immediately get overwhelmed by a great sense of sadness and dread. I guess he's imparting his feelings on others. Okay, our last stop is the Emporium, which is right in front of us. Looks like it's a series of additions and such, doesn't it? It's a hodgepodge of rooms. Used to be the Phoenix Emporium, a great restaurant, but again, that last flood, that 2018 one, this didn't come back here. Instead, the Phoenix rose up the street there. Um, you'll see that on tour number 2, Haunted Ellicott City. But that um, um, kind of relocated, I guess, and they appear to be doing well. Okay, so now here we have the Phoenix Emporium. I'm going to cross the street, and that way you can see the full thing from over here, instead of just seeing a few bricks up close, right? Here we go. Hey, Sarah. How's it going, ladies? Okay. All right. So that building on the end, the Phoenix Emporium. Sad, sad story. This property has seen way more than its share of death and destruction for real. Um, it was erected directly over the fast flowing Tiber River around 1850. A family operated a cabinet shop here, and then a grocery store was here, a saloon, and various restaurants. Located at the lower end of Main Street here, the Emporium was said to be stocked with more than just distilled spirits back when it was open. Whether they are lives lost during the building's construction or victims of the Great Flood of 1868, the first related death did occur during the construction of the building. A construction worker, a man, was crushed when a retaining wall built out of rocks to keep the river out of the basement kind of collapsed, killing him. Then in 1868, this is such a sad story, a massive flood ravaged the Patapsco River Valley, killing dozens of people. As the storm approached and the skies darkened, Main Street shopkeepers, these people over here, okay, all the shopkeepers decided to close up their shops. They lit their lamps, and some of them many went home, some walked up the hill to watch as the river was rising. Within a half hour, the river had risen 25 feet. So fierce was the raging river that when the floodwaters hit the first dams upriver, it formed a wall that rolled back onto itself, sending spray 20 feet high before breaking through. 14 homes were destroyed by that large wall of water. Families along the river started climbing to their rooftops of their homes once the water started rising. One such family was that of the local doctor, Dr. Thomas Owens. It was his wife, 6 children, and a family of servants who lived in the new 3-story frame houses that were located on a small island right near the flour mill. The good doctor was returning home from a house call when the first floodwaters hit. He when the first floodwaters hit, the granite factory upriver and smashed through those 20-foot thick concrete walls. Those who took to Ellicott City's 7 hills to watch the horror unfold before them heard the terrified screams of men, women, and children trapped by the raging floodwaters. Dr. Owens climbed to the top of a stone building on the hillside where he called to his wife to take the children up to the top floor. Inside the Owens home, the patriarch of the servant family chopped a hole in the roof and pulled the Owens family and his own family onto the roof one by one. When the tumultuous river combined with debris from the collapsed granite factory upriver, it tore at the foundations of the row of homes, creating a domino effect. As one house was destroyed, the stranded people would jump to the roof of the next house. Dr. Owens counted between 16 and 19 people clinging to the roof when his house began to capsize, and they jumped to the next roof. The screams subsided after the last house went down, pulverized by the river and debris. 36 souls from the little row of homes were swept away to their deaths that day in the churning waters of the Patapsco River. Neighbors physically restrained the grieving doctor, who would have dove into the waters in a fruitless attempt to save his family had they let him. Many of the victims' bodies were brought to the old emporium, which housed a cabinet maker at the time. They were there, fitted for coffins, and waiting for family members to identify them. Employees that worked in the building used to report seeing apparitions of a Civil War soldier in the basement, perhaps having walked over from the train depot. Others have seen a man dressed in 19th century clothing who vanishes as soon as he's seen. Wisps of smoky substances appear in staircases, and dinner plates are found smashed on the floor in an empty kitchen. From far away, voices can still be heard in quiet times. Are they the voices of those flood victims whose bodies were brought here? Perhaps Dr. Owen's family? Is the male spirit wearing the old-fashioned clothing the man who was crushed to death during construction? Perhaps it is the odd collection of lingering old souls that brought this building to life when it was called one of the liveliest pubs in town. And there you have it. that completes Ellicott City Ghost Tour number 1. Let me turn this camera around again. Hang on while I get it. Working on it. That. Okay. And here I am. Hello, hello. Okay, so I actually have 4 Ellicott City Ghost Tours. This one is the first one on Lower Main Street. I have another that continues with buildings up on top of Main Street, Upper Main Street, and also Columbia Pike. Third Ellicott City Ghost Tour goes up Courthouse Hill, used to be called Mount Misery, and includes a couple of haunted mansions and whatnot. And then the fourth one is just on one of the old girls' schools. I tell the story of the girls who lived there, and we keep our eyes open to see if we see any little spiritual images coming around the corner there. Anyway, so that's that. This is this. If you enjoy my tours, please go to Buy Me a Coffee and buy me a coffee, please. I love espresso. Alrighty, guys. Thank you. Thank you. See you guys soon, right? Take care. Bye.